The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Young at heart, purpose-driven, patriot even. When you like to party, but are still passionate about discussing important issues, the only place where your needs will be met is WESN Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
WESN.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. I'm Keaton Shaw. Pleasure as we start a new day. Now, I would caution you on your drive into Port of Spain this morning. I'm not entirely sure what's causing the haze. It seems to be most possibly fire that is burning from the dump. It's caused visibility to be a bit low this morning, so just to be extra cautious as you journey your way into the capital city. But as we start this morning's edition of AM Prime, the first conversation that we're having surrounds the issues, because there are multiple, regarding ECCE teachers in Trinidad and Tobago, and the status of ECCE teachers in Trinidad and Tobago, because from what I understand, based off of information I've received, some of them are not even entirely sure whether or not they will be employed after the end of their contract, simply because of the process surrounding the hiring of ECCE teachers. There are also issues with the current contracts being offered by the Ministry of Education, as well as negotiations with the Chief Personnel Officer. Well, to have this discussion, I'm joined by the president of TUTA, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, Mr. Martin Lumpkin. He's with us via Zoom this morning. Hello, sir, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mr. Shah. Good morning to your viewing public. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for having me on your program this morning to highlight this issue of the ECCE teachers.
Well, Mr. Martin Lumpkin, where do we even begin? Given the plethora of issues surrounding ECCE teachers, their contracts, their status, because from what I understand, they're not even considered teaching staff, according to the Ministry of Education. There are so many issues that need to be addressed. TUTA's position and stance is they're currently working with ECCE teachers to become the majority representative union. Many fights to fight. Could you speak to us this morning of what is taking place?
Okay, so as you said in the first instance, and the Ministry of Education, as well as the Chief Personnel Officer, would constantly remind us or ask us, are we the majority bargaining unit? And that has always been reminded of us. And we have to remind the parties that we have members amongst the ranks of the ECCE teachers. However, that does not prevent us from bringing up the issues that face them. So that's the first instance. However, we at TUTA believe a teacher is a teacher is a teacher. Whether you are at the ECCE primary, secondary sectors, we will represent all our teachers to the best of our ability, and we will even highlight, and I'm glad that you would have reached out to us to have this issue. And so where do we begin? It has to be looked at in the context of the education system of Trinidad and Tobago. And as you know, with any institution, anything that you look at, the foundation is very important. And you're speaking about thousands of children having proper access to education, having proper teaching and learning systems in place before they go into the other systems. And you should be treating your foundation, your base, with a certain level of resource allowances and treating them in a way that they will provide the services that they need. And you spoke about contract. The first thing we are looking at is the change in legislation to include ECCE age students in the as the legal age for schooling. Presently, it's 5 years. We have reached out to the Ministry of Education. They have said, the minister has also said, that legislation is being drafted. It's at the stage of the Attorney General. But we find that there's not enough emphasis or speed into it. And while that is happening, as the old people say, or the old saying goes, while the grass growing, the cows starving. So while you are saying that you sent legislation in order for it to be enacted, the ECC sector is suffering as a whole. And the Ministry of Education cannot be utilizing the term teachers conveniently. We believe that they are teachers and should be treated as such. And their terms and conditions of employment, and you spoke about the contract. Let me say, coming to the end of last term on a Sunday, these contracts were sent out to our teachers, and they were given a deadline of the Tuesday to sign, so with some amount of threat behind it. If you don't sign, you're not going to be employed. Now, there were previous issues with the contract. So the Ministry of Education has gotten a template contract in which they can utilize. And this is the contract that is utilized in the public service. And Mr. Shah, you could greatly appreciate that the terms and conditions and even what public servants do is different to what teachers do as well too. We believe in the first instance, these teachers should not be on contract, but should be given tenure of employment. That's the first, real issue we have to deal with. However, you are utilizing a public service contract into a specialist area and not even adjusting it. Now, well, let me don't say that. They adjusted the contract. So the last contract they would have offered would have only had 3 terms of conditions: the duration of the contract, the salary, and included in that would be the number of days of vacation. So
Mr.
let me
Lumpkin,
even go
if I may
further
just,
back.
may I just,
When the,
sorry,
yeah,
sir,
go ahead, Mr.
I wanted to interject for a moment as we get into this conversation with regards to contracts. And I'll start off with the term, in terms of length of the contract. From what I understand, right, because information was passed on to me from multiple teachers, actually, and it seems as though I'm quite appalled that this has not been highlighted more, especially from the media. But contracts are valid for 3 years. When those contracts expire, when the teacher's term comes to an end, the position is advertised. They actually have to reapply to the position, and there is no guarantee that they will get it, as they have to go through an interview process all over again, as though they're applying for the very first time. So to me, it seems as though it's not a 3-year contract. It's 3 years of probation, followed by the interview all over again, 3 years of probation. And I've been told that there are teachers who are on their 6th and 7th contract.
So true. And I was getting to that point, that in this round, when the contract was about to expire, they had the teachers reapply, and we understood the reason why, for record keeping and so on. However, they wanted these teachers, as you said, to go through the interview process, having established that these positions, one, that are necessary. So when you have been renewing contracts for a number of years, and as you said, 6, 7 renewal of contracts, you would, the government would have built new ECCE centers over the years. To us, that is a admittance that you are requiring the services of these teachers, and so you should be bringing these persons into the establishment. However, coming back to the issue that you would have highlighted, yes, and tutor had to intervene and ask the Ministry of Education to not have these teachers go through this process. So you could imagine the unease, that the anxiety that these teachers would have been going through. So we got over that hurdle. However, you are now bringing this abridged contract with just the 3 terms of condition, having them sign it, and then later bring on another piece for them to sign. So when they first signed the first contract there, you are now binding yourself to whatever the Ministry of Education would want to put in. And let me throw in this here. Over the years, the government, the ministry has not been employing enough cleaners at the centers, and having our ECCE teachers outside of their job description cleaning the schools. And we are suspicious as to what would be the other terms and conditions that they would put into the contract later on. Mm-hmm. Why just these 3 areas? And I want to get into the vacation part of as well. They are saying to the ECC teachers that they have to come out during the vacation. So the vacation of the ECCE sector follows that of the primary and secondary. So you have 2 months in which these teachers are being asked to come out during the vacation period. They have 20 days, and they are being told when they can apply for the 20 days. So you can't apply for it during the school term. However, they don't want you to apply for part of the vacation period. We are contending to the Ministry of Education, to the public, our parents, to let them know what is taking place. How could you have these teachers coming out during the vacation doing what? And further, they are not employing the cleaners during the vacation. So the teachers have to now be the cleaners on the compound, as well as just being there doing nothing. There is a court judgment which states that the vacation of the students is the vacation of the teachers. And we are contending the same with our ECCE teachers.
Now, with regard to the contract itself, which you mentioned earlier, I just want to give some dates so that the public have a better understanding as per the situation. From the information that I have received, contracts were being offered to ECCE teachers, but they were predated. They were actually dated June 15th. Teachers received it on July 3rd, which were incomplete contracts. The contracts were not completed. They actually just received part of the contract, and it was dated June 15th, only being received on July 3rd. And on July 7th, that is when a sheet, which is supposed to be a part of the original contract, was sent with terms and conditions, and teachers were told that they have to respond within 5 days of receiving that, regardless of whether or not they actually accept the contract. So the question, which people are seeing on the lower third this morning on the screen, is whether or not teachers, ECCE teachers, are under duress this morning as we speak.
Yes, and actually, we pointed out that they got sent to them the Sunday of the last week of the school term, and asked to sign by the Tuesday. So when you look at all the events leading up to this and the entire sector, what has been taking place, the Ministry of Education, the persons in charge of this sector, and you know, to us it's quite alarming to know that the director of the ECCE sector was an ECCE teacher who came through the trenches, would have gone through what these teachers have gone through before. And yet still, we are not seeing, we are not recognizing, we cannot acknowledge that there's anything that's been done to improve the sector. And to not have these teachers, 98%, 99% are women, some single parents, some single, the only breadwinner in the family. And you are having them go through this emotional roller coaster, such that they have been reaching out to us. And so we see nothing good behind what is taking place. You have the experience of these contracts. Why has it been changed all of a sudden? We reached out to the ministry, and the response is they are dialoguing with the CPO on the contract. And while that is taking place, time is going by, and you will realize that the vacation period will be soon ended, and we have not had resolve to this.
Mr.
We are
Lumpkin,
saying enough is enough.
Let's speak about this vacation period as well, because that's a very important piece of information. The terms and conditions, as you mentioned, very much quite suspicious of what they'll be coming with next, given the fact that teachers are now also employed as janitors at ECCE centers. I mean, the legislation you've also mentioned, it is rather confusing to me that there's been great investment into ECCE institutions across Trinidad and Tobago, and yet there is an issue regarding teachers. But again, the information I've received is that during the last administration, when Dr. Lovell Francis was actually within the Ministry of Education, it was stated that teachers do not come out during July-August vacation periods. But now, as you've mentioned, they're being told that they have to come out because there was actually no official policy. It was actually word of mouth from the former minister in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Francis. Because there was no official policy, they are being told they have to return now during the July-August period. Do you believe that this is purely out of spite, given the situation with ECCE teachers and all that you're highlighting this morning?
Well, based upon the evidence that we have and the events leading up to this particular period in time, we cannot see anything that is good coming out of this. It is to us, and I'm going to say it boldly, modern day slavery. These teachers are being beaten into submission such that the officials of the Ministry of Education can treat them in any way and they have no other choice. I am really, and tutor, I am speaking on behalf of the association. We are totally fed up. This has been left unattended for quite a while. We are saying to the public, to the Ministry of Education, by extension, to the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, that the importance of ECCE in the education system cannot be ignored any further. These issues must be dealt with. And we understand your economic concerns and challenges. However, it does not preclude your, or even abrogate your responsibility to these teachers and to these sectors. I can tell you, facing some of these teachers, and probably Mr. Shah, you would have faced some of them, and you would hear the cry, and you would hear, you know, what they are facing. And I cannot imagine that persons can treat such teachers like that.
Now, let's get a bit further, a bit deeper, because again, from what I understand, and I think you also mentioned it, ECCE teachers are not actually considered teaching staff. In fact, they don't even deal directly with the Teaching Service Commission. They deal directly with the Ministry of Education. So is there no official policy regarding the hiring, the staffing of ECCE teachers?
No, there isn't. And it's left up to the Human Resource Department as well as the ECCE directors to have terms and conditions of employment. So one can get up in the morning and decide, hey, you know, ECC teachers should be doing this, and would include it in their terms and conditions. So you're right, you're correct to say that there is no interaction between the employer, which is the Teaching Service Commission, CPO, and representative Ministry of Education, and the employees. And we have been advocating for the change in legislation. Once that change in terms of the school age, the legal school age, is instituted, then that sets the wheel in motion to have ECCE recognized formally in the education system, legally as well, and have these employees, these persons, be regarded as teachers. And hence the reason we are pushing for the change in legislation. However, it's moving too slow.
I also understand that there has been correspondence between ECCE teachers as well as tutor and the CPO. There has been correspondence. However, I've been told, and I'm hoping that you can actually confirm this morning, that the CPO has not been responding to email correspondence, to letters, to phone calls. In fact, I also understand that it has been said that the reason why he has not been responding is because he is unwell, yet the CPO made a television appearance last week Friday. What are the next steps in terms of communicating with the CPO if it seems, based off of his television appearance last week Friday and his ignorance of your communications, what is the next step in trying to get a meeting to sit down and have further discussions with the CPO?
Let me admit, our discussions with the Chief Personnel Officer, Dr. Commander Dindial, has been forthcoming. And so in the past, we would have probably sent correspondence to previous CPOs. However, I will admit that this CPO has been quite open to our discussions. When we brought up the issue of the contracts and the abridged contract, where they only outlined 3 terms of conditions, he was quite surprised. He said he would have sent correspondence and advice to the Ministry of Education, as well as an outline of the contract. Now, we are saying that this one-size-fits-all contract cannot work. But coming back, the CPO has been very open to our dialogue and discussions. And I know personally, as well as from tutors' end, he is willing to find a solution to this situation.
Well, I'm appreciative of you clarifying that. I actually was told otherwise, so I appreciate you clarifying that. And that's actually good to know that there is some positive with regards to the ongoing discussions. Mr. Lumpkin, thank you so much for joining me. What are the next steps with regard to dealing with this situation? If there's legislation that is currently being formulated, though there seems to be great delay in actually its formulation, what are the next steps? What is tutor planning next?
Well, I can say we wrote to the Minister of Education and CC'd the Minister in the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Lisa Morris-Julian as well, for an update in terms of that. Barring that, we will continue to advocate on behalf of our ECCE teachers, and there may be time when we'll have to take this further to the public and even to the politicians, the members of parliament, to have something in terms of a response and where it has reached. So we will continue to advocate and reach out to the Ministry of Education, the ministers. We will continue dialogue with the CPO. However, we are being frustrated by the level of responses, and we may have to take this in a different direction or a different place. At this time, I would say that the process is that we take it to our General Council, because any further action requires the sanctions of the General Council. Mm-hmm. And so we may have to meet an emergency session very soon and formulate a way forward. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to preempt any of the actions, but do say to the public that something will come when it has to come to a head, and tutor is quite prepared to take it to other places. When you say that you're frustrated by the responses, that tutor is frustrated by the responses, what has the responses been from the Minister in the Minister of Education, Lisa Morris-Julian, or Dr. Nian Gatsby-Dolly, the Minister of Education? Has there been any response at all? Well, in terms of the legislative changes, we are waiting the response of the ministers because we wrote to them via letter a couple of weeks ago. So we'll await that. And any opportunity we have to meet with the ministers, we will bring up this issue and get a sense of what is their policy direction, because ministers are supposed to be responsible for policy direction in the Ministry of Education, and get their take on it. I was reflecting when this particular administration came into office. The Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, when announcing the Ministers of Education, he made the comment, I am appointing 2 women into the education sector. And we were quite pleased to know that, he was doing that because the sector is made up primarily of women, and they would have an idea of the issues because both came out of the education sector as well too. And we felt that there was going to be a level of commitment. There is a level of commitment. However, we are not pleased with it. But there will be a level of empathy, sympathy towards these persons in the education system, especially ECCE. There are about 99% of women in the ECCE sector as teachers. And I must say administrators are going through some stress as well too. Mm-hmm. You have one administrator assigned to a cluster of schools. So it's like saying to a principal of a primary or secondary school, you are the principal of A school, B school, C school. So you have to administer 3 schools in different geographical locations and effectively monitor curriculum implementation as well as what is taking place physically at the plant. Mm-hmm. How can that be? Are you really serious about that? Mr. Lumpkin, very quickly before you go, could you kindly just confirm to us if you have any figures or at least any information regarding
the predated incomplete contract, of which we spoke of earlier, when teachers were finally sent terms and conditions, from which I understand, again, is a bit watered down, and does not actually fully state terms and conditions, when they were told to respond within 5 days. Have teachers actually responded, confirming that they are accepting the contract?
Feedback and the advice we would have given to some of our members in terms of signing, we would have said, hold on, we are in dialogue with the Ministry of Education, and so hold. And you know, the thing is that while they were waiting, they were being sent threats via text messages, via WhatsApp, and so on. To sign, or else you will lose the opportunity to have the contract renewed. You will lose payments during the vacation, and so on. Some have signed because they naturally would be concerned about their tenure of employment and having a salary. And some would have written on the contract that they are not in agreement with the contract. And some would have held on and heeded the advice of the association. However, we are saying again, while we are in dialogue with the Ministry of Education concerning this, the ministry they have shown bad faith in having threatening remarks to these teachers while we are discussing the contract. And hence another reason we are saying these things are not done in any good manner or with any good intent.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Lumpkin, thank you very much for joining me this morning to highlight this issue. Again, rather appalled that the media has not done enough in actually raising this issue. The situation is very much concerning and confusing at times. I was shocked to understand that ECCE teachers are not considered teaching staff. They deal directly with the Ministry of Education or even the Teaching Service Commission. There's no direct policy over their hiring. They have to go through an interview process every 3 years, reapply for the position. So what is taking place is shocking, and I can only hope that there is greater communication and perhaps the resolving of these issues of which you have highlighted this morning on AM Prime. Thank you very much, and I wish you and tutor and all ECCE teachers all the very best.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shah. I'm going into another interview right now. So thank you for having me once again. And we look forward to joining your program anytime you would want us to be there.
Certainly, sir. Thank you. Do have a good day.
Okay. You too. Thanks again.
Mr. Martin Lumpkin, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, joining me on AM Prime this morning. The situation is absolutely ridiculous, what is taking place. Again, just re-emphasize the serious situation. On June 15th is when the incompleted contracts were dated. But it's only on July 3rd that incomplete contracts were received. That is when ECCE teachers received their contracts via email correspondence on July 3rd. They realized that it was dated June 15th. On July 7th, terms and conditions, which means part of the contract, was then forwarded, and it was told to please respond within 5 days' time. I'm not even sure if they used the word please, but they have to respond in 5 days' time, whether or not they accept. Mr. Lumpkin has also highlighted that they received threats via text messages. Now, I'll be very careful in using that particular term, threat, but those are the words of the president of Tutor. Furthermore, previously, ECCE teachers did not have to come out during the July-August vacation period because of a word-of-mouth policy, it would seem, allegedly, by the former Minister of Education, Dr. Lavelle Francis. Allegedly, that took place. This is what I've been told. But now they're being said that there is no official policy, so therefore they have to come out. Beyond that, they're also acting as janitors for ECCE institutions across Trinidad and Tobago due to a lack of janitorial staff to deal with that situation. Thankfully, it seems as though there is some level of communication between the CPO, Dr. Darren Daniel, and tutor regarding this situation, but there needs to be greater communication between the ministers of education and tutor over this situation. So it seems that based off of everything, ECCE teachers are under duress, and I can only hope that this situation is dealt with in the soonest possible time, as soonest possible manner. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. Upon return, we'll get into another situation affecting every citizen here in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is, when you go to an ATM or any bank teller to now conduct a transaction, the fear of walking out of that bank and traveling with your hard-earned money home, not knowing who's following you. We'll get into that conversation after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Varicose veins is a serious medical condition that causes significant pain and debility.
The varicose veins might appear because the body is trying to form alternative pathways. And next thing you know, you go and treat that, and you've left an undiagnosed DVT there, which can be life-threatening. And if you don't diagnose and treat that, then you're treating the varicose veins, but you've ignored a big problem.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Did you tell your hubby about it, first of all?
I did.
When you were telling him, did you think that he was going to think differently of you or less of you?
I thought exactly that.
In case you've missed it, it's an encore of Nicole Larson Live. Relive some of the riveting experiences of everyday people who candidly shared with me their stories, life challenges, stories of hope, and eventual victories.
Because
He is not like man because he is the God. It is a promise that we can hold on to.
The report came back that she had two properly...
Eric, behave yourself, no man.
Two properly working kidneys.
An encore of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
Welcome back to the program, and thank you for staying with us this morning, ladies and gentlemen. My next guest, we're working on getting him into the studio very shortly. Virtually, that is, so we're sorting that out. In the meantime, we're just going to get into some regional updates. I'll start off with St. Lucia. The Chamber of Commerce Performance Survey reveals the majority of respondents expect business to be better for this year. That is according to the Chamber of Commerce Performance Survey. Let's take a look at this report coming from the island of St. Lucia.
The Chamber of Commerce has released its latest business performance survey, which sheds light on the factors potentially contributing to the inflationary pressures experienced by the business community.
The members pointed out that in addition to inflation and the causes of inflation, labor costs and the purchase price of goods and the cost of electricity are the top issues that are driving continued price increases in their businesses. We noted that in spite of that, 52% of respondents expect the costs of goods and services to increase during the next quarter. That is down from a higher percentage of close to, I think, 65% in the previous survey that expected prices to continue to increase. So fewer businesses are expecting prices to increase.
The government of St. Lucia has announced the removal of VAT on specific building materials, as well as feminine hygiene products and baby products. Louise says the recent announcement has been keenly noted by the commercial sector.
We certainly would look forward to see what members' perspective is on these new measures and how they expect them to play out. And we'll probably get the results in the next survey. Yet it is clear that if the government has specifically sought to minimize or not have their measures affect the most vulnerable, in particular, we see that the 2.5 levy has not been placed on food. We note that there are going to be waivers of VAT on select building materials, and we think that will hopefully have the desired effect of not negatively affecting the most vulnerable.
But the business sector harbors its own concerns regarding the 2.5% health and security levy.
However, increasing taxes can and usually have an inflationary effect. Our members are concerned that it may negatively impact demand as consumption really, because we're talking about a tax that will be compounded, and whilst it is a 2.5 percentage point increase, it works out to be more than the 2.5% increase on the cost in certain areas.
According to Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber is living up to its pledge of engagement with key public service entities on behalf of the Vieux-Fort business sector.
The Comptroller of Customs has agreed to meet with the business community in Vieux-Fort on July 20th. The General Manager of SLASPO has also agreed to join that engagement, where we could have an exchange of views, where the business community in Vieux-Fort could speak to some of their concerns and highlight some specific areas, while it gives Customs and SLASPA an opportunity to share their plans and the measures they're putting in place to enhance the quality of service delivered to the business community in the South. What we are working to do is strengthen the business community in Vieux-Fort's ability to advocate and lobby and to make representation on issues that are affecting them. And we are making the Chamber's network and the Chamber capacity available to the business community in Vieux Fort. We think that that will go a long way in ameliorating some of the problems, expanding employment, expanding economic opportunity.
The Business Performance Survey indicates that the majority of respondents have a positive outlook on overall business performance in 2023 compared to 2022. However, Executive Director Brian Louisi notes that there is always room for improvement, as 16% of respondents had a negative outlook on turnover. Despite the inflationary pressures, 65% of respondents anticipate an increase in profits, and 45% plan to increase their investments in the next quarter.
We have one more regional update before we welcome our guest, and that comes from Grenada. The Ministry of Tourism is finding new ways in which the outer parishes can benefit from more tourism in Grenada. The aim is to decentralize tourist attractions from the town of St. George and spread community activities throughout the island. This report coming from Grenada.
Just over 1 month ago, government began the process of installing solar lights on bus sheds in the parish of St. George. This measure is intended to ensure the safety of persons using the sheds, especially after late shifts.
The lighting of the bus shed is part of the Visible Transformation Project. And we thought it was necessary to put the lights in the bus sheds because that can solve a safety issue. And sometimes people may go to the bus sheds and the life could be in danger because someone could be waiting for them. We have installed lights at the bus sheds in the Grandlands area, in the town of St. George area, in the Lagoon area, and the aim is to really go through the length and breadth of Grenada.
Minister for Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation, Andy Williams. The first phase of the solar lights project was funded under the MIT Ministry. The aim is to outfit bus shelters island-wide.
The funding is coming from our ministry and under the Visible Transformation Project. What we have done under the Ministry of Climate Resilience, we have requested a grant in order to continue with the project. So, and it seems like if we will get the grant, so we started with our funds, but we are going to continue with a grant.
Just weeks after embarking on the initiative, government is now confronted with the defacement of the lights in River Road and on the Kirani James Boulevard. It is an offense to destroy someone's property, in this case government's property, and this comes with consequences. According to Section 94 of the Criminal Code, any damage to property exceeding $1,000 carries a fine of $5,000 or 2 years imprisonment, while damage to property under $1,000 carries a fine of $3,000 or 1 year in prison, or both. Chrislina John, GBN News.
Seems as though we had a very slight mix-up with regard to the regional updates coming out of Grenada. We apologize for that, but that is okay as we move on now to our next conversation. I welcome my guest, Mr. Vivek Charan. He's the chairman of the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers. He's with us via Zoom. Hello, sir, and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, Mr. Charan, the situation is out of control. It's not that it seems to be getting out of control. It is out of control, with citizens now going to banks, whether it be through ATMs or through tellers, conducting transactions, withdrawing cash, being robbed, whether it be outside of the banking premises or at their homes. Whatever it may be, there is a situation that has caused citizens to now be even more fearful of when they actually have to conduct business. Now, the Banking Workers Union, they've issued a release stating that it is unfair to suggest that any workers within the banks are involved They've shut that down. But the Banking Association of Trinidad and Tobago says the security of its customers of utmost importance. They've also stated that there's going to be greater collaboration with Crime Stoppers and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. With all that is happening, sir, are you satisfied with the level of responses with regard to this situation?
Well, I've actually been monitoring the situation. I've been following up on what's been happening in the banks. Obviously, all of us business people, we utilize the banks, particularly the commercial sections of the bank as well too. The issue that's happening is that I really do believe that the crimes at the banks are crimes of opportunity. I really do believe that the volume of criminals out there looking for an opportunity have increased. And the reality, whether we want to accept it or not, is that the bank is an obvious logical choice for a criminal looking for a crime of opportunity to hang out outside and to wait for something to happen. Now, the bank has, and you have to forgive me for saying so, the bank has, many different types of people that come in, and some of them are quite, they're elderly people, they're frail people, they're vulnerable people. The criminals would no doubt know at the end of the month people are coming in to get their pension checks. They may no doubt know that sometimes people are coming in to pay certain bills through the bank. Not everybody is online. Not everybody has a smartphone. Not everybody knows how to use a smartphone. Obviously we've been using the bank for a very long time. I can't see, I've not ever seen a situation where I see a teller using a phone right after me. Most of the time when you go into the bank is full. There are lines. After I leave at the teller, somebody's right behind me. I have not seen, while I'm waiting in the line, a teller on the phone saying, calling somebody or signaling somebody or something like that. Everybody seems pretty much engaged. I do believe, however, that threat levels are very high. Threat levels have increased. They're not abating when it comes to crime. The private sector, particularly small and medium businesses, for a long time now, we've upped our game. We've upped our game by spending a lot of money, sometimes money that's hard to come by, on security cameras in particular, on more security, that sort of thing. And that is what the bank really needs to do. Most of all of the criminal activity, the crimes of opportunity that happen with the bank don't happen inside the bank or inside the premises of the bank, meaning inside. It happens outside on the perimeter of the bank. Everybody waiting there. When you walk into the front of a bank, how many branches there would be? There's a preponderance of people on the outside milling around. Some of them have business with the bank, and a lot of them don't have business with the bank. Some of them just hanging out there, leaning up against the wall. Some of them asking for donations for various things, cars parked haphazardly outside. I think what, is my suggestion that the bank really needs to control the external circumstances of their property, particularly where now that crime is becoming an issue.
Now, Mr. Charon, there's been a suggestion by heads of business chambers, but also amongst the citizenry, about perhaps the actions of bank workers and the possible actions they may have that are a part of these crimes. That being said, as I mentioned earlier, the Banking and Insurance General Workers Union, they've immediately shut that down. Why? Are we disregarding that possibility?
Well, the fact is this. Most of the times when a crime is committed in a business, particularly armed burglary and so on, the police will tell you that 80 to 90% of the time there's been inside information that's led to it. And that is with, a retail business or the types of business that have been knocked off by criminals, if I can use that word. The reality of the situation when it comes to banks is that it is only recently have we been seeing an increase in the number of crimes. Nonetheless, the people who have been working in the bank have pretty much remained the same. After COVID, 2021, 2022, as we were coming out, we never really saw this level of criminal activity happening outside the banks. It has really recently happened. If you look at the banks when you walk in, you will see security cameras over every teller. I would tend to believe that if it is people were using their phones and they were doing any sort of signal and so on, it would be picked up by the CCTV camera. That being said, there's always the element in a business environment when it comes to employees and otherwise. from managers, everybody at all levels, that there's an element of extortion and there's an element of blackmail that can sometimes rear its head. In other words, an external party, sometimes a party that someone's having a relationship with, a party that somebody is, maybe they're part of the family, maybe their friend, exerts an control on them externally for some sort of information that could lead to a crime. If that is the case that is happening in the banks, I'm not saying it is, then I'm pretty sure the bank should or would be able to pick up on it by virtue of their monitoring their CCTV cameras. Because what would happen is that it would not be widespread. It may be happening with perhaps the people who are attending one particular teller. At the end of the day, there is no signaling. When you walk into the bank, you will not know which teller you are going to see. It's the teller that becomes available while you're in the line, and sometimes there are 5 to 6 tellers or 3 tellers at least. The second thing is that the tellers in of themselves don't know who is coming on a particular day, or how much money is a person is going to have on them on a particular day, unless they know the person before and that person has told them that they're coming in and that sort of thing. So I'm not negating at all the fact that, collusion can always exist. Whether that's a 10% chance, whether that's a 5% chance, collusion can always exist that leads to a crime within a business space, particularly where you have interaction between the public and employees on all levels. But I'm not saying, I feel that we should not go down the road of panic. Really and truly, the blame, if there's blame to be shared, is the fact that criminals can so easily pick off people attending the bank during the day. And I think that is the greatest crime, as it were, if you want to talk about what is the most obscene thing about this entire thing, is that how during the middle of the day, criminals can come and grab your purse or rob you right in front of the bank or 2 steps away from the bank. And that is why the bank needs to invest some of their humongous profits into, I think, making the external areas of the bank into a safer place, and also placing armed security externally and inside the bank as a show of force as well too. I mean, all businesses right now, we are part of our managing our businesses is management of crime, in a sense, if you want to use that word. Meaning that we're always aware of people coming in, we're aware of suspicious people on the outside, we have CCTV cameras watching the road and so on, not even inside our businesses alone. Again, I want to say the threat levels are very high, they continue to rise, and they are not abating. When the Commissioner of Police came out, she basically said, I can't do this on my own, I need the help of people out there as well too. And so we all have a duty of responsibility to ourselves and to our customers, and not only, to say that I think we're doing enough and so on. But that being said, how much is enough? I think the crime has gotten way out of hand, and I think, who is ultimately to blame? I think all the blame, so to speak, are being placed on the police. I think we are still waiting on some sort of national crime plan to happen. I think many meetings have happened. I think CARICOM heads of government have met. All these other meetings have been had. All these other NGOs have been meeting about crime and so on. Has it really addressed the situation? The answer to that is no. When we look at some of the viral feeds that are going on, we are seeing very young people, very young people, maybe 18 to 25, running around in the day with machine guns, gunning people down, and sometimes people on the outside are getting hit. And that is, is that the society, is that where we're heading as a society? We're seeing 10 youths pelting Molotov cocktails and burning down somebody's apartment. Is that really where we're heading? We're seeing people coming back from buying food on the outside and being run down on the streets, and somebody is running behind them with a gun and shooting them. So, it's the bank is one thing, but the reality of the situation is this is happening all around us. Are we saying that, we're so concerned about what's happening outside the bank, but we're not concerned with what's happening outside the street, sometimes 100 feet away from where we live?
Now, Mr. Chair, let me...
it's a terrible situation.
The situation
is a terrible situation.
It is most certainly out of control. The level of crimes and criminality in Trinidad now is appalling, and that is probably sprinkling some icing on it. However, you've also, suggested certain policies or perhaps various ways that banks can help the situation with greater investment in security, as is any other business having to do in Trinidad and Tobago now. You've also mentioned the fact that banks have cameras placed at strategic locations, which is a key point. However, the public has been expressing the need for perhaps a greater police presence within areas where banks are, or even outside of banks. The police will make the argument, we do not have the resources, and the police cannot be everywhere all at once. And given the level of crimes we're experiencing in TNT, you would hardly think that the police will have the necessary resources to be at every place given any moment. However, as pessimistic as I may seem, it seems as though with any investigations or intelligence gatherings, the criminal elements in TNT have a much better chance, or are very much more professional at intelligence gathering as compared to the police services. So what even makes us suggest the police have the ability to make a difference?
I agree with you. I think the reality situation is that the intelligence gathering, as it were, we're talking about basically with crimes of opportunity, things happen very quickly. Basically, you find criminals stalking a particular area and they're looking and waiting for something to happen, which is why I continually say when it comes to external premises in a business, it is important to wonder why people who are parked in a car for a very long period of time and are not coming out or are not coming in to buy anything. Why are people hanging out outside your business for a very long period of time and not actually coming in and not moving and so on? Why are people actually in your business for a very long period of time and not buying anything? I think with the bank is the same thing. Again, I have to say, even when I travel, when I go to the bank, there's a host of people outside the bank. The majority of them have absolutely nothing to do with business within the bank, because everybody who is engaged in business in the bank is lining up in these lines on the inside. So what are all these people doing on the outside? I think really and truly we need to clear these areas. We need the bank to say, this is my premises. If you have business with the bank, be on my premises. If you don't have business with the bank, you cannot be on the premises. Please go on the road. But again, the reality is how much is going to be done? The root cause of the crime is actually beyond the bank. The root cause of the crime is not going to the bank. So we can't say, well, we should simply go to the bank. We can't even say we're going to move to a cashless system, which I personally don't believe in. And we're not going to say, well, everybody use online resources so that we don't go to the bank and have to be afraid of getting robbed. Because the reality is that all banks are within a stone's throw of the high street or the busy street in a particular area all across towns and cities in Trinidad and Tobago. So why are we saying, we have to be so careful at the bank when the reality is that people are just walking up and down the street. And people are walking up and down the street and getting robbed. It's not just about the bank. They're getting robbed when they come out of the bank simply because people tend to think there's a greater opportunity they're going to have cash on them than if they go into a store and spend their money. And that's basically what it is. I agree with you. During the Safe City initiatives, which they tend to have during Christmas, there is often a larger police presence patrolling. I've seen recently, Saturday or the weekend, I do believe I've seen some soldiers walking around with police or patrolling with police in the Sawa area and so on. So maybe joint patrols have become a thing. And if joint patrols have become a thing, then maybe there's additional manpower to kind of spread themselves, across particular areas and so on.
Now, you've mentioned a cashless society, but what people don't really understand that there is a large population here in TNT that is unbanked, simply because they do not have trust and confidence within the banking system. Some of them not even willing to pay banking fees that they claim are ridiculously high. Is this doing further to that cause where there's going to be a greater mistrust within the banks and the banking system?
Unfortunately, I think it's already there. I think people already have a sense of fear when they're going into the banks. I think people have a sense of fear when they're walking the streets to go shopping and that sort of thing. Many times when people go into retail establishments, I hear the new thing is they don't want to walk out with branded bags. They walk in with their own garbage bags to put stuff in so that when they walk into particular communities or when they walk in the streets, nobody would think that they're went to a store and bought stuff. They may think they went to the market and they have produce in theirs. It seems very strange, but I mean, that's the feedback that we are getting. And sometimes people actually ask for that. They're saying, no, I don't want that bag. I have to travel home. I have a couple other places to go. I'm going to put it into this opaque black garbage bag with no branding and so on. So, I mean, it's a very sad situation. Really more needs to be, we keep seeing more needs to be done. But, you know, I think a harder approach is what is required. I've been reading all the commentaries and all the opinions over the months now because we've been going through this for a while. And there's always talk of the soft approach and working on the end. I believe that the people who are in crime chosen crime as as their job. Crime is their career. They know fully well what they're getting into. The second thing is when you start to and the thing is, if we look at some of the things that have been done, have they netted us the results that we wanted? Has the change in denomination netted us the results we wanted? The answer is no. We were told the change in denomination of the bills and so on would have netted us, the kingpins and the big guys out there, the big fish as it were, who had millions of dollars in cash just sitting there, and they would not be able to change it when they went to the central bank or whatever. It didn't happen, right? There's every year at the budget, there's this long list of flag transactions, cash-intensive flag transactions that have been investigated by the financial authority and so on. And the reality is that most of the time it's businessmen using the cash and legally earned cash. But we have yet to get a cash kingpin.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, let me ask you,
killing people, right?
Let me ask
Behind
you
the
about that.
scenes, there's a much older person. There's an admin, a much older cluster of people that are really running the affairs of the gang and bringing these young people in, and they remain untouched while all these young people are cannon fodder.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we don't have much time. I just wanted to quickly ask you. I mean, we all have an idea that this would certainly affect any business, these cash transactions and the robberies associated with them. But as a businessman and in conversation with your membership, exactly how is this impacting upon businesses? This, I suppose, fear of actually now having to do large cash transactions where cash has to be taken out of the banks. How is this impacting upon businesses?
It's a risk, but it has to be done. It's not only taken out of the banks, it's going into the banks. Nobody wants to keep cash in their house because of fear of home invasion. Nobody wants to keep cash in their businesses because of home invasion. I mean, crime, armed burglary and so on. So obviously it's about taking the cash into a safe place, which is the bank. The bank often says, past a certain level of cash deposit, you can't deposit that, you have to go to the night safe. Who is going to the night safe? What is, are you crazy? You want me to stack bills in a bag and go in and drive up to this external thing at some hour, or everybody's going to be watching me, or some hour in the night, and pull that down and drop my bag in there and expect that I'm never going to be a victim of crime? I think being a victim of crime now is, is a probability, a mathematical probability. You know how you do permutations and combinations in maths and stuff like that? I think it's a mathematical probability of when you can possibly become a victim of crime if you put yourself in a certain situation. And I think if you continue to go, again, the onus is upon us too, because if you go to the bank every day on a Monday at a particular time, and you're going in a particular type of vehicle, and you're going in with a giant bag, then it's only a matter of time before the people who are stalking outside the bank are going to pick up on you, and they're going to figure out what's in that bag, and they're going to come at you. And I think, as people who go about doing business in our ordinary lives, we also have to realize, again, that the threat level is very high, and that things are not normal. And so you cannot operate as things are not normal. You have to operate as though when you're out there going to the bank, there's a huge possibility you can get robbed, and you have to be very aware of your surroundings. You can't go the same time all the time. You can't have a routine for criminals to pick up on. and you have to be very careful.
Mr. Sharon,
how you go about it.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning, sir. Appreciate your time and for sharing this information with us. It's very unfortunate, the life that we're living. In many ways, we are fortunate, but the level of fear that you face when you are walking outside of your own home, your own business, your workplace, really is absolutely ridiculous now. But thank you very much, sir, and have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break here on AM Prime on Routine. We'll get into our final discussion this morning. Stay tuned.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andre.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Welcome back to the program. Our final guest this morning unfortunately had to postpone the interview due to being under the weather. I know that the flu is going around. It's kind of strange actually, this flu in particular. Everybody's being affected in rather strange ways. Some people are getting regular symptoms. Some people are getting only stomach issues that has them down for a couple of days. But I know that there is indeed something that is going around, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, always do your very best to take care of yourself and take care of your health. It is absolutely important. Trust me, that's coming from somebody who has faced a hell of a lot in the last couple of years. But nevertheless, I wish that last guest all the very best in their recovery, and hopefully we can have that discussion very soon, and that is with regards to Tobago's infrastructure. But in the meantime, as we get into the last lap of this morning's edition of the program, I will just continue with some regional updates. We've got about 3 more to share with you. The first coming out of Haiti. Now, last week, thousands of protesters gathered around the world demanding change for Haiti amid escalating violence in the nation. An ongoing issue highlighted by the United Nations Secretary General, the Honorable Antonio Guterres, even here at CARICOM's 50th anniversary celebrations last week and the general meeting of the heads of CARICOM. This was of great focus. Let's take a look at this report.
Thousands taking to the streets across the Americas. From Miami to Port-au-Prince, in the same streets that for months have been ravaged by gang violence, political instability, and corruption, a demand for change. The uproar comes amid escalating violence in the impoverished nation. As in recent years, some 200 gangs have effectively taken over parts of the country, per a U.S. government commission report. The United Nations estimating gangs control up to 80% of the capital city, Port-au-Prince, where Marie Brunesh lives and runs the nonprofit Together for Haiti, focused on providing resources and support to residents. How would you describe what it's like in Port-au-Prince right now?
It's very sad, especially for the young people, because we are the first victim of the insecurity kidnapping, gang violence.
Jean-Marc Biquet is the head of mission in Haiti for Doctors Without Borders. Last week, the group shut down a trauma facility in the nation's capital after 20 masked gunmen stormed the hospital and kidnapped a patient.
They immediately asked all the staff to lay down on the floor, saying, "We are going to shoot you. We are looking for that specific person who you are treating. We want to take that person out of here."
The Caribbean country has been in free fall since the assassination of the president, Jovenel Moïse, 2 years ago, which left the country without an effective government. The UN calling the current situation one of the worst human rights crises in decades, adding that violent crimes, including homicide, rape, kidnapping, and lynching, more than doubled in the first quarter of 2023 compared to 2022.
I've heard appalling accounts of women and girls being gang raped and of people being burned alive. The world must act now to stem the violence and instability.
Gangs have burned houses and buildings, displacing more than 165,000 residents, according to the Migration Policy Institute, and taking control of major ports and roads, forcing thousands of businesses and markets to close, leaving half the population with limited access to food. Tens of thousands of Haitians have fled the country, some making the perilous journey across the Darien jungle between South and Central America, or crowding onto shabby boats bound for the U.S. or other Caribbean destinations.
I stay here to fighting for the people who don't have any voice.
Priscilla Thompson joins us now from Houston, Texas. Priscilla, that was such an important and thorough report. But look, Haiti, they have been asking for these anti-gang police for quite a while, right? Since October, I believe. What's taking so long here?
Yeah, Ellison, so this would be an international anti-gang police force that would be sent into the country. It's estimated that there would need to be 2,000 officers sent in order to have an impact. And the UN says the reason that has not happened is because they are still looking for a country to lead that deployment. Ellison?
All right, Priscilla Thompson, thank you again. We appreciate your reporting.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News.
All right, so we will continue to highlight the situation in Haiti, and we will continue to bring the reports coming out of Haiti to you here on AM Prime. This situation will not go unnoticed. The world is watching. I can only wonder if government leaders are across the globe. Now, we go to Jamaica, and it's a situation, again, that involves Haiti and Haitian nationals. Because in Jamaica last week, a number of Haitian nationals, including children, arrived by boat at Boston Beach in Portland. Preliminary reports indicate that a total of 37 persons were on the vessel. Their purpose on the island is not immediately clear, although one can argue asylum seekers, refugee seekers. Residents alerted the police to the area shortly after the individuals were spotted coming ashore. The police, as well as health officials, are now monitoring the development of this situation. 37 Haitian nationals on a boat arriving in Portland, Jamaica. We take a look at this report.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
And a special welcome once again to our viewers on onespotmedia.com.
Up first this evening, 37 Haitians, including 8 children, crammed in a small boat, arrived at the Boston Beach in Portland today.
Quick action by residents helped to revive the refugees who were seemingly weak and dehydrated after spending days at sea.
As Kalisha Williams reports, the Haitians are currently being processed by the authorities to determine the next course of action.
About 18 feet long and only aided by a paddle, this is the boat in which the 37 Haitians, including 8 children, were traveling, braving the elements across the Caribbean Sea for 3 days. Today, the boat arrived at the Boston Beach in Portland, and from the look of things, their journey was no easy feat.
I was just sleeping. There's this guy who says there's a boat coming in. Always, we look at the ocean, I always try to observe. When we observe, it was like an Asian boat. So they didn't know the bay, so they were just coming in all the way to the shore. So we come over, we direct them a little bit to the shore, help them out of the boat a little bit.
Seemingly distraught and dehydrated, the refugees' first request was food, and the people sprung into action.
They were weak, tired, lazy, look like they're dying. The first thing we do is get 2 cases of water, share it up for everyone. Afterwards, we get 2 cases of Coca-Cola, share it up for everyone. Then we send and get some bread and corned beef, share it so everyone can get some strength again.
And within a few minutes after being fed, they appeared stronger. This surfer, Javon Brown, said the language barrier made it difficult to get much information from them, but it seems they're hoping to settle in Jamaica.
I felt good. I felt bad because, you know, you have kids there and you don't know why the purpose they're traveling or what they want to do. I see just a glimpse. I see one of the guys with his working tool with a level. So meaning they just seeking better, leaving their country. And I think it's good. My little help for maybe half an hour was good enough. That's all I can do.
But this is just the beginning of their journey in Jamaica. After the police arrived on the beach, the Haitians were placed on this bus, which will take them to a center for medical checks and further processing.
We are going to look into the circumstances that have brought them to the shore. All the agencies have been contacted, and we'll be doing all the necessaries from a multi-agency approach.
The Portland police told TVJ News that this is not the first group of Haitians that arrived in the parish since the start of the year.
This brings 8 other Haitians over since 2023 have been found in the parish in different circumstances. Some have been charged and brought before the courts. Some have been sent back to Haiti.
A waging war in Haiti spiraled by gangs 2 years after the president was assassinated has resulted in hundreds of residents attempting to flee the country. From South America to the United States, the Bahamas, and Mexico, the migrants appear to be risking it all to escape the turmoil in their country. Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
Our last original report this morning comes from Barbados. One of the island's biggest lenders says after successfully weathering a series of shocks in recent years, the Barbados economy is recovering strongly, driven by a rebound in tourism and related activities, with public debt heading in the right direction. Now that is actually just the headlines. More information for that tomorrow on AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we actually conclude this morning's edition of the program. Thank you for making the time to join me. I'm most appreciative of being able to start my day with you. And I hope you're glad you started your day with me. And I hope we've done a bit of service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. In your day ahead, in your week ahead, may it be a great one, a grand one, a productive and safe one. Always do our best to look after ourselves, to look out for each other, and to make sure we do our part as good citizens for Trinidad and Tobago. Have a great day ahead, and I'll see you again for AM Prime tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. But until then, bye-bye.
WES